In the UFC, we're always told it's the best fighting the best, but sometimes it's more like the best fighting the guy who wandered in from the parking lot. UFC history is full of fights that should have never been sanctioned, the kind of matchups where you watch the stare down and instantly know how it's going to end. Today, we're looking at the worst of the worst, the biggest mismatches in UFC history. From legends getting fed to young killers to cross-sport disasters, and even a few fights that mercifully never happened. These are the nights where the cage might as well have been a crime scene.
Hey, Hamza, if you in there, don't be a bitch. My boy's right here, fight him. Quit talking my name, and anybody in there.
Next up, the fight where one man got hit so many times he became a meme. UFC 264, Sean O'Malley vs Chris Moutinho. Moutinho took the fight on 11 days notice, replacing Louis Smolka, and he probably should have been paid danger money. O'Malley was in his prime and on the come up, laser sharp precision, elite footwork, and tons of confidence. Moutinho was tough, but that's about it. His main skill was refusing to die. So for 14.5 minutes, O'Malley put on a striking clinic. It looked like a live action Mortal Kombat training dummy mode. O'Malley landed 230 significant strikes. Moutinho just kept walking forward, eating every shot like he was downloading pain resistance in real time. Blocking punches with your face isn't a good strategy. Finally, with 27 seconds left, the ref stepped in. O'Malley won by TKO, and Moutinho won the internet's sympathy. Afterward, O'Malley called it the easiest fight of his life. For Moutinho, it was probably the longest 14 minutes he'll never remember.
That kid's probably at the hospital right now, fucking seeing triple. So he took this fight on short notice. He came in and hurt my hands. It was a good fight.
BJ Penn, nicknamed the Prodigy, a 2-division champion and one of the greatest lightweights ever. But by 2017, BJ was not that guy anymore. He was 38 years old, hadn't won a fight since 2010, and looked like he'd rather be running a surf shop than fighting in the octagon. The UFC matched him against Yair Rodriguez, a young, explosive striker 14 years younger than him, and fresh off spinning kick knockouts. BJ looked like he was fighting underwater. Yair looked like he was in a video game. It wasn't competitive for a single second. Rodriguez landed 55 strikes, BJ landed 6. By round 2, Yair was basically using him for target practice. BJ was a walking punching bag. It ended in a second round TKO. This wasn't a fight, it was a museum exhibit, the extinction of the old era. If BJ vs Yair was sad, this one was just absurd. In 2016, the UFC signed CM Punk. Yes, the professional wrestler from the WWE who had never fought before, not even an amateur fight. Dana White basically said, what if we put a famous guy in the cage and see what happens? And what happened was exactly what everyone expected. Mickey Gall, a 24-year-old prospect with actual jiu-jitsu skills, was handpicked as Punk's opponent. They hyped it up like a real fight, but it was the MMA version of a school bully taking someone's lunch money. The fight lasted 134 seconds. Punk charged forward like a kid playing UFC 4 for the first time. Gall took him down immediately and submitted him before he even broke a sweat. The whole thing was surreal. It was like a celebrity prank that nobody told Punk was real. And Dana White let him do it again 2 years later, where he got dominated by Mike Jackson, who himself wasn't exactly Khabib Nurmagomedov either. 2 fights, 2 beatdowns, 0 takedowns later, CM Punk retired from MMA. At least he got paid, and the rest of us got secondhand embarrassment.
You know, that was a disaster. When I saw Mickey fight, and then I saw that he was going to fight CM Punk, I was like, who said yes to this? Why the fuck would you say yes to this? This is 100% guaranteed brain damage. There's no way you're going to beat him. You don't have a goddamn chance in hell. You have no chance.
This one hurts because Johnny Hendricks used to be a monster. This man almost beat Prime GSP. He was knocking dudes out cold with that left hand. But by 2017, he looked like he'd rather be at a barbecue than a weigh-in. And then came Paulo Costa, the Brazilian Terminator, undefeated, shredded, and looking like he was created in a lab by Muscle Tech. The UFC matched them up at UFC 217. Costa was 26, Hendricks was 34, and looked smaller, slower, and completely overmatched.
They look like they're separated by 2 weight classes.
Costa walked him down like it was a sparring session, landing body shots that sounded like someone slapped a steak on the counter. Hendricks looked like a man who suddenly remembered he left the oven on at home. The fight didn't even make it past round 2. It was brutal but inevitable. The UFC was clearly trying to build Costa into a star, and Hendricks was a sacrificial lamb. The man went from nearly dethroning GSP to getting retired by the Brazilian bodybuilder of doom. This fight was the definition of marketing over merit. James Toney was a world champion boxer. He had 83 professional fights, incredible defense, and old school swagger. However, he was also 42 years old, 30 pounds overweight, and never trained a day of grappling in his life. So naturally, the UFC thought it'd be fun to throw him against Randy Couture, a multi-time UFC champion, Olympic-level wrestler, and literal human wrestling encyclopedia. The build-up was hilarious. Toney said he'd knock Couture out with 1 punch. Couture said he'd take him down before Toney even knew what was happening. And spoiler alert, Randy was right. The fight lasted exactly 3 seconds before Couture shot a double leg, dragged Toney to the mat, and choked him out like a bouncer handling a drunk guy. It was over in 3 minutes, but the point was made. Boxing is not MMA. Dana White wanted to prove that MMA fighters could beat boxers, and he did. Toney made $500,000 for his troubles, and fans got one of the most one-sided beatdowns in UFC history. Now for a mismatch so bad it didn't even happen. In 2022, the UFC tried to book Nate Diaz, 37 years old and on the last fight of his contract, against Khamzat Chimaev. It was an execution disguised as a retirement fight. Khamzat was undefeated, fresh off ragdolling everyone in sight. Diaz was tough, but outmatched in every physical category. The MMA world revolted, fans called it cruel, and even fighters said it was a horrible matchup.
But if he's fighting Khamzat next, then I gotta give him some credit.
You don't see that fight going his way?
I don't know. Of course not. But you know, again, I'm a fan of this sport because anything can happen at any time. But he doesn't. What's he gonna? He's not gonna out wrestle him. He doesn't even have the power to shut someone's light out on accident. You know, so no chance. He is a 0% chance, 1% chance.
Thankfully, Chimaev missed weight by 7.5 pounds, and the fight was cancelled, and Nate instead fought Toney Ferguson, another veteran but at least someone his own size and skill range. Dana might have seen dollar signs, but what the fans saw was a hit job. If the fight had gone through, it would have made CM Punk versus Gall look competitive, so it earns an honorable mention, not because it was bad, but because it was so bad the MMA gods didn't let it happen.
Hey, Hamza, if you in there, don't be a bitch. My boy's right here, fight him. We're talking my name, and anybody in there.
The UFC loves to say anything can happen, but sometimes we all know exactly what's going to happen. These fights remind us that while MMA is unpredictable, matchmaking isn't always fair. Sometimes it's legends getting sacrificed, sometimes it's celebrities getting humbled, and sometimes it's just Dana White trying to prove a point. Either way, these are the nights that made fans scream, "Stop the fight." And if you're new to the UFC, let this be your reminder. Not all fights are 50-50. Some are just 100-0.